Ørsted is the world's leading offshore wind farm developer, constructor, and operator. Over the past 30 years, the company has constructed 33 offshore wind farms across Europe, APAC, and the US. Ørsted's vision is for a world which runs entirely on green energy. It is on track to reach 50 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030 and is set to invest 475 billion of Danish krone in this period, equivalent to 68 billion of US dollars. In Asia Pacific, Ørsted is catalyzing the green transition by operating in markets with highest potential for value-creating offshore wind projects. Australia is certainly among the most notable ones. So today we are more than privileged to speak with Mr. Mejnert Kristensen, President of Ørsted APAC, as we delve into their APAC wind strategy and key focuses in Australia. I'm Molly Huang from the Organizing Committee of Australia Wind Energy 2023, and it is my immense pleasure to welcome here Mr. Pierre. Very good day.
Thank you very much, Molly. It's indeed a pleasure to be here today and speak to you, which I look very much forward to.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pierre. So to commence our interview, let's first delve into your perspectives on the Australian market and its potential for offshore wind energy. What do you think are the opportunities and prospects that lie ahead?
Well, indeed, a very good question, Molly. And I will say that at Ørsted, we are very positive on the developments we are seeing in Australia right now in terms of the development of renewable energy in general, but not least also the potential for offshore wind energy. We believe that Australia is setting a very positive direction right now for offshore wind, which will both help securing clean energy, but also creating jobs along the way. And we do believe that Australia, in fact, has all the ingredients that are necessary for a thriving offshore wind market. First of all, for offshore wind, you need very good wind speeds. And indeed, in the areas we have seen selected in Australia, there are world-class wind speeds. Then, of course, you need the ambition to be there from the regulators, from the governments, and that's also very positive what we have seen out of Australia in the last couple of years. We see a very clear commitment in Australia right now to transition away from the coal-fired power plants, and we believe that offshore wind is the only realistic way to replace the quantities of coal that will come off the system in the years ahead. And I think if you take the example of Victoria having a goal of 50% of power coming from renewables by 2030, and then a very strong ambition with a 9 gigawatt of offshore wind by 2040, all the conditions should be right in Australia to really kick off the renewables adventure within offshore wind.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pierre, for your very kind words and the confidence for the Australian market. Ørsted has always been the leader of the offshore wind industry. And looking ahead, how do you see the offshore wind industry developing over the next 5 to 10 years? And what role do you think Ørsted will play in this growth?
Well, we plan to play a very strong role in this growth. We have been the early movers basically everywhere in terms of developing offshore wind. We were the first movers in Europe, where we have now a very strong base of many offshore wind farms. We are in the Americas, and we have also now come off to a very good start in the APAC region with large gigawatt scale projects in Taiwan. And we plan to take this to Australia as well. And what we see is so important is that we get the right regulatory frameworks implemented. We see that the Australian government and regulators are taking this very seriously, trying to learn from the experiences from other countries, which we welcome very much. And we think that a two-stage system with a separate rounds for seabed lease and then later on an auction design that is providing a viable framework is what is really needed. And with the government already having earmarked 6 priority regions in Australia, this has convinced us that we need to be there and we want to play a very strong role. And I think not least the capabilities, the experience, and the track record that Ørsted has, there's really no one who is in a better position to help the transition into green energy in general, and not least offshore wind in Australia.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pia. Ørsted sets industry examples at various aspects, and one of it is the technology. So the topic of fixed and the floating offshore wind has sparked a vibrant industry debate. From Ørsted's perspective, which technology do you think will be the mainstream of the future, and which one holds greater suitability for Australia's unique conditions?
Well, I think Australia is in a very fortunate position where you have very good wind speeds in many areas, not too far from shore. And we know that the bottom fixed technology is one that is very developed. It's very commercially viable. It's fully available, and we have demonstrated a strong track record. So in terms of the bottom fixed technology, that is something that is already here, and we can proceed as soon as the regulators and other framework conditions are in place. That being said, there's no doubt that longer term floating offshore is the way to go, because it will enable you to go to greater distances from shore. You will go to deeper waters, and thereby also enable to unlock more of the good wind speeds that you see offshore. But it is the floating technology is something that is right now under development. It's still in the early stages. We are already seeing projects being implemented, for example, in Europe, and we believe that it will probably really take off in the early 2030s. But until then, we are all in on the offshore wind, and we are participating in the upcoming round in Australia, where we have submitted our feasibility license applications for the Gippsland area, and we feel very strongly that we will be in a good position to unlock the potential here, which will firstly be in the bottom fixed technology.
Thank you so much. Technology is certainly a vital vector in the energy transition, but more importantly, we also need to establish a vibrant, sustainable business framework. As we assess the renewable energy landscape in the Asia Pacific in Australia, we cannot overlook the challenges that the industry may face. So from your perspective, what do you consider are the most significant hurdles, and how does Ørsted intend to address them?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Molly, and indeed very relevant. And I think we all know that we have over the last couple of years seen significant capital expenditure inflation. We've also seen rising interest rates, and not least have we seen a lot of supply chain bottlenecks all over our industry, but certainly also in other industries. That is something that we together as an industry has to come together to solve. And I know everybody is working very hard on this. At Ørsted, we always take a lot of pride in working very closely with local industries, trying to help develop local supply chain as much as we can. This has a lot of advantages. We also work very closely with local academia, with the local stakeholders. We also set up apprenticeship programs, help develop skilled working abilities for the industrial bases in the country. So I think these are some of the areas where we can help to overcome the challenges that we do see on a global scale. And of course, what is always very important is that the governments, the regulators are fully behind this ambition in terms of developing frameworks that are conducive for implementing offshore wind. This is where we have seen that there are quite different frameworks being developed around the world in the various regions and countries. And we hope very much that in Australia, you will find a way to develop a framework that is conducive for expanding the offshore wind in the country. And the early signs we are seeing right now, fortunately, are very positive. So we are fully engaged in Australia.
Yes, I would say collaborations and partnerships are the key solution to address these questions, to address these worries, the partnership with the industry, with the government, with research institute, and with the local communities. Lastly, to wrap up today's interview, this is a question with great industry anticipation. So what do you think are Ørsted's core competency that keep the company at the leading edge of the Australia and the world offshore wind market? Maybe you can share with us some of your secret recipe.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. I'll be happy to do that. I think first of all, Ørsted has a very strong vision. Our vision is to create a world that runs entirely on green energy. Now, that's of course always fine to have that ambition, but you really need to put action behind your words. And this is what I think really separates Ørsted, because our track record is second to none in the industry. We started more than 30 years ago building our first offshore wind farms. So we are right now by far the largest and most experienced offshore wind developer. We have a very strong track record in developing the projects on time and on budget, and always at the very high safety standards. That is not just words, that is something that we have demonstrated all over the world. Right now completing our first gigawatt scale offshore wind farm in Taiwan, having just kicked off the next one. And all this is being done with the support of a very strong organization. For example, having more than 4,000 dedicated offshore wind experts. So we believe we can safely say we are the #1 knowledge center. And then I think our business model, which was basically developed by Ørsted, where we take it all the way from developing the projects, building the projects, we own the offshore wind farms, and then we operate them for 30, 40, 50 years. It means that we are always there for the long haul. We are in there to engage early with local stakeholders, communities, and regulators. And therefore, Ørsted is still in the best position to be the trusted partners for the countries that really want to kick off the offshore wind development.
Yes, it's certainly a dedication, a long-term dedication, faithfulness, setting standards of all high levels. And thank you so much, Ms. Pierre, for your very kind address and sharing. Undoubtedly, Ørsted has a great role to play and to lead the APAC wind market growth. Thank you once again for your generosity in sharing your knowledge and expertise. We are genuinely honored to have you join us, and we eagerly anticipate your presence at the Australia Wind Energy 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Molly. It's been a pleasure today.
Thank you.